Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh,
Are we all ready?
Ew.
yes.
Okay, that is Dr. Yong in the middle and Mary Mike looking rather merry. My name is Eugene Tay, and you're watching us on Strange World. Today is a continuation of the question that we posed to you guys last week. Is all this real or just a figment of our imagination to something that's connected to a deeper world? And does all these pyramids and structures around the world mean something to this simulation? Join us as we try to answer this question. Operative word here is try on Strange World today.
I really don't feel good. We're getting a
Is anyone here? What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.
I really don't feel good. We're getting a
Is anyone here? What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions. It was a glitch in the Matrix. It was a SC crossover to Strange World.
Yeah. The is I think the universe is very excited to our the upcoming episode that I proposed that.
Yeah.
And to draw us in, right, when last episode where we left off, Mike, you were talking about the spinning clothes bag, right? And immediately it's the idea of Leonardo DiCaprio's totem in Inception, spinning and spinning and spinning and not stopping.
Oh yeah.
And again, reality, right? Different levels of dreams, different levels of reality. Okay, and over to you.
Wow, so that means what? Okay, wait. This is interesting. Okay, I never thought of it that way, but yes, correct. The inception thing, right? The total keeps spinning. So that means what? It may be still be dreaming.
That's it. If it doesn't stop, right, that means that Leonardo knows that he is
In a dreamscape, in a dream world.
Oh,
Mm.
If it doesn't stop spinning.
Oh, so which means that maybe it's not that I was split in or I was split into two. Maybe it's that I was traveling in between the. You think that was what happened?
um
Like in that moment, I was just traveling in
I
between,
think I
and
think
then
the what I do know is that the Christopher Nolan, right? He has this obsession with time and time space. That's why the movies Inception, Tenet, Interstellar explores all these concepts. And one day if we can get him on this show, we'll ask him
oh my
his opinion
goodness,
about reality, But, and
wow.
then he can explain why he used the totem and what is the deeper significance. So I don't have an answer for you, Mike, but I feel
see.
that it's a very interesting thought.
So it's okay. It's all right. If you say these are the mysteries that will keep us continuing to explore.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I will know. Like, hey, actually, you were astro traveling halfway.
Yeah. I think we cannot talk about this topic without referencing a few things. So, for our ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us, a few movies that you might want to watch is Christopher Nolan's shows, Matrix, of course, Simulacrum Theory, and so Jean Baudrillard topic on hyperreality and simulacrum and what is the difference. Just in a nutshell, the idea of hyperreality is that this world there is a real world and there is a figment, image of that real world. And this is also reflected in some esoteric belief, as above, so below. And, in the Plato's theory of people in the cave seeing shadows, there's a lot of topic around that, this esoteric playing field or minefield that alludes that the reality that we are in is just based on our perception, and our perception is extremely limited. And if you take a look at what we are seeing today in this real world, calling back the theory that Mike spoke about last week, where we say that there's a code of this world already and we are progressing within this finite sandbox. When we look at today's simulated world, we are almost looking as if we are gods looking into another world. What do I mean by that? We are now able to use artificial intelligence to create lifelike imageries that simulates the real person, but it's not even real at all. And we're able to create content and pump into a system and let the system propagates by itself. For all intent and purpose, if we just put on a VR glass tomorrow and we refuse to take it off because we are told we can't take it off, that's the rule of it, we will be lost in that world. We'll cross over into another world and we will not even know what's real and what's not anymore. So we pull that example back one level up to where we are. Are we the projected images of our other self? Because we always say, let's open our senses to our higher self. We are trying to go back to that heaven space. What if all that is going back to our source, which is the player on the other realm controlling this avatar?
Yeah.
It kind of fucks up your reality already, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. But in some way, our player, the one who is controlling is actually still quite nice to us. The fact that he could have decided that
Stockholm syndrome.
we have zero access to the outside. We have zero access to go beyond the rules, correct? But it is very clear, based on all the witchcraft, shaman practices, Taoism, Bazi even, correct? That there are some rituals that act as system commands that modify the code temporarily, or like Eugene would say, like to hack. So do you think those sacred rituals are what we could call like /CMD IP config?
Windows button plus R key.
Yeah, great. Yeah,
I'm going to go less geeky than that. Like, to me, it's the up, down, down, left, right, like start. Right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, lah. That's why.
I think so. So when we look at the spiritual belief of the multi-world, there's 9 different levels. So it could even, and Earth is the battleground. In esoteric belief, Earth is the battleground. All planes come to Earth to do battle. All gods can even create avatars on Earth to help man, or to also learn, or to, in some cases, gods themselves gain merits, do good, and then elevate. It seems to me that if we go with that concept, Earth is that game world. Earth is the MMORPG. And different people can come in, different tribes can come in, different groups can come in to play in this world. But if we have 9 different planes, then I'm also starting to wonder if plane number 2 knows that plane number 3 exists. Or does plane number 2 only know we exist? And the higher up you go, I suppose that's when you are at Buddha or godlike level, you can go down to all different planes. Right?
Maybe.
And this planes that were sorry, right? You go ahead.
No, I was going to say like maybe plane number 3, number 4. That's where the aliens exist. Then they come and take us. Like maybe the planes are not like stacked vertically, but they exist horizontally. And then like maybe for some reason, plane number 4, number 3 have figured out how to cross dimensions and then take people and then study them.
And if you look at the cryptocurrency or crypto blockchain universe, at one point they were trying to create meta universes, crossing over on different worlds. So having assets of one world being on the blockchain, being ported over to another world. So your Diablo character can go into a World of Warcraft character, a world. That sort of crossover. So if we believe that everything is above, so below, if this is happening right now where we are in a battlefield, maybe we are the test bed for what is going up above. So we test here, we play here, we fuck it up. We need to reset the civilization, so do it, we pull the plug. But we are just a simulation test subject for the gods.
Those planes that you mentioned, Eugene, right? Those are the the etheric plane, the mental plane, the adi, the paduka. That's the one, right?
There's I don't know the names, I forgot, but there's a little nice map that shows concentric circles outside of
Yeah. but truly interesting how many levels are there, and which level, like when you are waking, we are at one level. When we're in a dream state, perhaps that's when we get to have glimpses and we visit the
Ah.
other realms, right, other states, right, and
Mm.
perhaps that was what my experience as well.
Mm.
Yeah, and just an aside, Mike, when you talk about you felt your body splitting, the only time I had that was I was consciously engineering OBE, and then I was powering up the chakras, and then I was feeling the whole brain of vibrating, raising the energy very high. But and then my conscious mind interjected, right? And it's like, is this an earthquake? Why are the lights not shaking? Then immediately the entire phenomenon stopped because logic came in to stop the
Mm.
other expense how everything is possible part of me. Yeah. Yeah, and
Wow, okay lah. Maybe okay lah. Mine is half ass one. I don't know, anyhow do and then just manage to unlock at that point in time.
Have you guys watched simulated reality movies such as I'm gonna rattle off some names that I watched and see whether you guys have watched it. The 13th Floor. 13th Floor is about a man living in this world, and he walks up and he realizes there's no 13th floor. There's the end. Like everything else is just grid like because he was not finished programming. Obviously, The Matrix is an incredible show. Inception as well. Ready Player One about VR world, right? Everyone's sitting out there in on their couch, fat and unwashed. But when they put on their headgear, they go into this VR world. They're all amazing, beautiful people. Dark City is another one, also one of my all-time favorite, where this man suddenly wakes up and he realizes that there are engineers coming down to the world to move you away from one place to another. So like maybe if you're rich today or you're poor today, you're a beggar, they can pause time and change your life, take you out of the streets, put you in front of dress you up, shower you, and put you in a mansion. And then as the world goes on, you are now a rich man. So sometimes do we get that feeling that we are not who we are and that there's a different version of ourselves? So instead of thinking that we have different lives because we die, in a way, what Dark City is trying to say is we are all things in this huge world.
Chess pieces.
Yeah.
Chess pieces on the.
Source code is another one. It's like what you all mentioned, that this world has a particular code, and there are agencies at play that try to prevent us from changing the source code. Truman Show, about how Truman thinks he is just a normal person in this world, but actually there are cameras out there and people are watching him on TV, kind of like how we feel gods are always constantly watching us, where we say, you don't do anything wrong, because upstairs is watching. That sounds very Truman Show-like, right? Total Recall, he doesn't know when he's in the simulation or out of the simulation. Free Guy, one of the latest one, starring that guy from Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, about how he's a computer simulation, and then he's wondering to himself, there must be something more than this. Then he puts on the glasses, then he sees things on the other side.
Wow, some of them quite old actually. Wow, now you're like jogging out all my memories.
My next question was like, you do these rituals, these things, right, actually help us tap into the source code? And Eugene, Free Guy putting on those shades, and what are those things that we can actually help us to sort of like see through the mist or see through the fog? And yeah, back to Mike, your question. Do rituals and practices allow us to do that? I think when a shaman does soul retrieval and things like that, right, I think this is what exactly they do. Part of this person's self may be trapped in a past in this incident, perhaps even a different realm, and then this shaman uses whatever ability he has, breaks through the code that partitions between the reality, goes and retrieves this one and makes the person whole again. I think that's actually one way that how it works. I don't know. Eugene, based on your experiences with all the supernatural, what are your thoughts?
I mean, this is probably one area where it's so murky, and I can't even. I mean, we keep going back to the world is created, simulation is created, but I think that the other question is, what if it's not built or created, but rather rendered. Like this whole thing
Uh,
is rendered, and I think Mike might be able to help me with that.
wow.
He has a theory on this particular topic about the signs of this world being programmed.
Wow. Um, okay, so as I mentioned last week, I've been looking into 八字, correct? So that has kind of shifted my perception, not in a way whereby I don't believe in it that God exists anymore or what, but I find um okay, let's assume, right, okay, there is one monotheistic creator or programmer, correct? And like all programmers, everything that they create, everything that they do will tend to point to themselves or will have a signature of themselves, right? So when you take the understanding of how 八字sort of like will tell you about your life cycle and when things will happen, when things will get better, when things do not get better, correct? You kind of realize actually the birth chart that 八字uses, right, correct, will sort of is already kind of a coded program, or rather a coded set of rules that will tell you that during this particular period, X amount of things will clash with Y amount of things for you. And so because of that, some of these things that you cannot do. But how it's typically explained is that this is your period of testing and this is your period of understanding. Then once you enlighten yourself, then these things will happen. Okay, I'll give you the example of mine. Okay, so mine, I asked a lot of questions. So obviously, some of the questions that I've asked will be, why is my life so shit for the past 10 years? And then
Same, I did the same.
and then the puzzle was like, oh yeah, because actually during this period to this period, this is your testing. So it was telling me that my element is metal, and because what fire and water is at this point of time is coming against me. So fire melts metal, water rusts metal. So therefore, during this particular cycle, all of this is terrible for you. However, it is also implying that my next cycle, I'm not going to say when, okay, my next cycle after this cycle is over is actually very, very good for me. But here's the thing, it is not very, very good for me because all my luck will come in. No. This cycle is very, very good for me because everything is supportive of me, but it is further enhanced by the lessons that I learned in my current cycle. So I asked it, so if this cycle came earlier, would I still enjoy what you call as very good? You would say no. Because there may be people who get their good luck cycle very early, but they may be 3 or 4 years old and they will never be ready to go and take advantage of it. Or they may be 12 years old and do not know what to do with the luck. So that's kind of how these things arrange. So and it's very enlightening and also very interesting because it does kind of explain things like, for example, why is it that some people beginning of their life in their, let's say for example we take a student who does very well in school, everything also good one, wow, good grades are, the your typical jockey that can also get 4 GPA, that kind of level, right? Then suddenly when they get older in life, they just stagnate.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, so actually, does indicate that these things can happen. So I asked, so that means if this is like all encoded, does that mean we are just bound to this destiny? Then once again, the other explanation is this: not exactly, because at the end of the day, we still have free will. Therefore,
That's what I believe. Yeah.
yeah, so our free will can still, like for example, even though let's say for example, even for me right now, right, correct, my current cycle as I live, correct, fire is against me, water is very against me, my earth is low and my metal is very low, which means that I should actually have 10 years of bad luck. But why is it I still can get married, I still can have child, correct?
Yeah, you just say the word lah. You got married. Isn't that bad luck?
Okay, later I explain a bit more. Later I explain a bit more interesting. Okay, so in that sense, like, okay, when we say so typically, having the finances to get married and have a child is still considered as not bad luck, correct or not? Because having a child and getting married is very expensive and very, very, very difficult, isn't it? But we can still do that. You see, so even though these things can elementally be still work against us, correct? Correct. Yes, we may not have the best one. Like for example, I got married right before COVID, so there was a lot of distraction. There was a lot of disarray, but still, life can still carry on. I mean, happiness can still be found even in times like this. It's just that it's how we actually position and prepare ourselves. So, like for example, during this period of like so-called very bad luck, correct? There be many times I tried to do certain ventures, I just don't work out. Or there be many times where I feel that I get more rejection than I get more acceptance.
So what I'm hearing is that this simulation, this world. Okay, I avoid using the word simulation for a bit because then the mind just goes into that realm.
Yeah.
I think this world has a certain pattern and a code that's already embedded in our reality. And if we know the code, or we can see the pattern, we're able to break this and change our destiny.
That's one way. Yeah, correct. So even Bazi masters will teach you, like for example, okay, since your water is low or your fire is very high, right? Then there are certain foods that you cannot eat. There are certain things that you must take in order to balance. So at the end of the day, it's not about overcoming and overpowering your elemental weaknesses or your strengths. It's about balancing, because at the end of the idea is that you need to balance it out and then position yourself to still understand what is life trying to put you through, so that it prepares you for your next round.
The good and bad that you mentioned, right, Mike? Like what your past master says also. Things will appear good because you went through these lessons, right? Good or bad is a matter of perspective.
Correct.
And what is it's after the lessons we learn, then we start to see things a little bit differently. I have a very similar experience with you. It was post-COVID 2021, 2022. And I was like, I never like continuously failed exams. I felt shitty at work. I felt shitty at home. Then I went to an astrologer, and then before he said anything, he said that, before you open your mouth, I know why you're here. You are in the satisty of Saturn, which is the retrograde cycle of the Saturn, and this will persist 7 years. And then this is what's going to happen. This period is going to last this long. What you're going to experience this period is, but like you, I also take hope in that there is an end to this. And the second thing is like a blacksmith who puts an iron into the forge. This is the tempering period for you. This is where your metal is tested. This is where you dig deep to understand yourselves, and you emerge the other side as a katana, that's worth X amount of money. And based on this, it just gave me that determination. Of course, it was a 2-hour session, lots to share. But back to the thing is that I believe there is blueprints, because our birth time, how Bazi or astrology is being calculated is the time and the location of birth. That is when certain planets and also certain mathematical points called Rahu and Ketu, which is actually astronomical. I think NASA also uses this.
Well, same
it influences what energies we are exposed to when we were born, and then sort of like for people who are born at this time, this kind of energies, this is likely the trajectory. But there are like how many? 7+ billion of each of us. There will be so many of us being born at the same time, right? And I don't think it's possible that all these people being at the same time, at the same place, actually have the same life. No, there are other intricacies, other energies at play, and if you know the source code, right, you could change certain aspects of that as well. That's what I believe.
So because everything sounds very mathematical formula here, with the planets alignment, down to elements, GPS location where you're born, time of birth. Of course, with all these parts, books that's written since long time ago, they're able to predict far into the future. If there's a way we could take all this knowledge, esoteric knowledge, crunch it into an AI system, and perhaps build this super brain where we can optimize ourselves. Like, this is the code to your reality, right? Like, then I think because this information is out there, this calculation is out there, we can find a pattern and we can break that the bad luck cycle. Or even if this is supposed to be a bad luck cycle, we can minimize it. And I think that's what's already been done with feng shui and everything else.
Oh, I mean, okay lah. The way that I will see this approach, or rather, the best approach to this, right, would be that okay, everyone will have their bad days, everyone will have their good days, but everyone can, it's like your typical what's that? Those life coach kind of a speech. You can take those bad days and be sad about it, or you can take those bad days to learn about yourself. Because at the end of the day, right, correct. Like 八字, I believe, is more of telling you the weather of that particular day, and then how you want to deal with that weather is up to you. You can decide to stay in because it's a thunderstorm, or you can decide to take a big umbrella because it's a thunderstorm. One, you will not grow. The other one, you get to experience life outside, even though it's raining. That's how I put it, lah. Yeah. But 八字 is pretty crazy also. I tell you one thing. Okay, I'm going to go and check my wife and myself, right? Correct. So this is a bit more of the spiritual esoteric side, lah. Okay. So apparently, her star and my star seems to indicate that we once existed before, and we are back here again to fulfill something that we promised each other together before. That's why I tell you already, my marriage is not bad luck. It's like your Friday Night Live, lor.
Destiny.
Yeah, got some somewhere somehow. I don't know. My old soul and her old soul made a vow to come back together, and then we're here now.
Now, speaking again of patterns, and just now Kuan Yu was asking me, what do I think about the rituals and from a spiritual side? As we are discussing this, and I'm obviously my brain is like thinking. Some of the other patterns I kind of discovered is like, if you write the talisman, or you have the ritual drumming, or certain chanting, certain prayers, certain yantra, mantra, concentric circles, all this could be a way for us to break system and go into a different world, which is why we call it the spiritual world. We the third eye, we go to the other side. The more we start learning about the esoteric world, the more we start learning about the spiritual world, I think that is the key to breaking reality. And maybe that's also why certain religion says you are not to follow this religion, not to follow that religion, because they don't want you breaking the system.
Yes. Okay. From my perspective, and so even for me as a Christian, I've been to many churches, and I always found that there were. Okay, so there are many things, and I think churches, especially for today, right? I think they've improved on the research and the interpretation. I know that they are also trying, but I also find that at the end of the day, there is still certain things that as when it comes to the whole entire congregation, it seems that they still do try to avoid it, and I feel like they may be unnecessarily gatekeeping some of this knowledge. Like for example, things like the sons of Issachar, which I mentioned before. I think it's very pertinent to understand that these people actually did use astrology, and they did use all these tools to help them. But whether or not they take all this information, they take all these things that do exist, they are pre-coded, they are encoded, right? Whether or not they take it and they surrender it under Christ. That is my perspective, how I wish to observe this. I know it will work for others. Like for example, there are also, like for example, Taoist side, I would assume that they have their own way of dealing with all of this as well. Right? But just from my perspective, as a Christian, which is why I feel like maybe one day there will be a church that will be bolder enough to go into all of this, so that it don't leave people like me very confused and kind of like, hey, cannot be lah, you sure or not? You say like that, that kind of thing. Because I still feel that sometimes. Which is why I went into this particular study of forbidden knowledge, according to them.
Going to Eugene's musing, right, about those techniques, tools that help us break through reality. Actually, just now, I think we previously mentioned about shamanic drumming, right? Mimicking the mother's heartbeat. And then that's how they bring people into entrainment, bringing all your brain waves into a certain pattern, entrainment. And it is exactly this drumming, right? It actually, so parts of our brain, right, we have the frontal lobe, our decision-making center, our temporal lobe, which houses speech, listening, parietal lobe, which governs our spatial aspect of ourselves. And during processes like shamanic drumming, pineal gland activation, what it does, right, it sort of like breaks the temporal parietal hard barriers or confines of the self, where we are rigid, we are 3D, we are all material. This is actually one part of brain projects this reality, helps us have this frame of understanding. But during those rituals, we actually sort of liquefy the borders, the margins. That's how we are able to look at things from a bigger perspective, resolve issues, have out of body experiences, because we are no longer that confined reality. Yeah, that's my impression and thought about why these tools, rituals, practices can allow us to transcend, to be able to edit the source code and to look at things from a different perspective.
Oh.
Eugene's deep in thought here.
Oh, it's a deep topic today, man, guys. I'm questioning my life.
No, I think as we do this, we are also growing. That's why we get deeper and deeper each time we come back. Like I would never imagine myself to be looking into 八字. I used to like think it's not. It is like it don't work lah until the day I got body.
So a lot of this Chinese metaphysics, like 八字, 易经, 紫微斗数, all being part of the thing, right? But 看相, right, physiognomy, when a person looks at your palm or looks at your face and say that, oh, this one, a lot of people will, if you have a mole near your upper lip, for example, that a lot of people will give you food, you will never be hungry. Whatever work you do, people will ask you out to belanja you meals. Basically, it's a pattern of pattern recognition and documented or even millennia, right? Then they start to compile all these observations. Okay, once again, my source code is broken. Then they start compiling all these observations, and then it forms the theory of TCM, 看相, 看长, 八字. It's basically all these cycles, and even right now we are period of Li period, and then this is the 9th period of a 180-year cycle. And then if we follow the pattern, 2025, if we think that whatever happening right on the global stage is bad, right? The thing is, the next 2 years will be even worse, because it's when the fire goat and the fire horse meet together. Every 60 years they come together, and every time they come together, things go bad. So buckle in, strap yourself in for the ride. Do what you can, do your best for this year in preparation for the coming 2. Yeah.
Okay, so you heard this weather prediction on Strange World by Dr.
Just when you think you cannot get any more fucked.
Hey, like that, no, actually COVID-19 was it also another year that has some actually you can check.
Interesting thought. I haven't gone and look actually.
I thought COVID was a lie, isn't it? What the anti-vaxxers said?
Oh, but there was this metaphysics practitioner, right? Her name is Erica. And then she was telling us 3 weeks before that based on Singapore's Qimeng, because even a country the Independence Day can be taken as the day we were born. So based on this, right, 2025 there will be financial turmoil all over the world. But Singapore, based on its 八字 or its Qimeng, it will be unscathed relatively to the rest of the world. And then 2-3 weeks later, right, we saw the Trump whatever, right? And see, Singapore is actually one of the relatively safe ones. So I find it super interesting.
Interesting.
I got
Yeah.
so many ideas. I think I'm going to talk to you guys off air later.
Oh, interesting. Okay. According to the COVID period, right, 2020 to 2022, right? Let me see. The elemental theme is young metal over red, so cold, isolated, introverted he. Wait, no, this is not talking about me. I want to know about this. Okay, I'll go and scold this guy, and then I'll try and figure it out, and then I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, let me see. My notes also. I already we went all over the place. Okay. So I think we can agree that all this language, this ritual, this architecture, they're not just cultural, but it seems like they are embedded instructions. They're little reminders, keys, or tools that uh, sort of how to say what spice up our lives, our spiritual lives, right? Now, the thing that I noticed is that AI is also doing the same thing and is actually very parallel to our reality. In a sense, like for example, Google's DeepMind. If no one knew about it, Google's DeepMind actually learned how to walk without being taught. Like there was no programming in it to move legs, or there was no programming to tell it that you have legs and you can step forward if you are stable, but it figured it out, whereby it created its own logic. This is the same as us. We, as we live through this so-called simulated life, correct? Not everything is taught to us. Even if there was something being taught to us, it was limited uh, to the schools that we attend, depending on which country you're in, right? But what AI is doing, that it is also learning without being given the information to learn. It just kind of feels its way around. This is very similar to, like, for example, after you graduate from school, you enter the working world and you realize that, oh my goodness, my degree has nothing to do with everything that I'm working for, right? But we still have to learn, right? So this one here is what we call, as part of simulation theory, it is the infodynamic aspect of simulation theory, whereby information that is being given to you is reorganizing its own depending on who you are and how you are. This is very similar to how the ancient builders, when they pass down symbolic blueprints to to their descendants, correct? How the descendants take this information with them, and then they sort of like recalibrate it, which is why there are some rituals that go forgotten. There are some things that maybe are altered or they are missing, right? So here's one thing that I would put as a discussion topic, right? If sacred geometry, ritual, and architecture follows infodynamic patterns, do you think they were left to teach us how to read this code?
So embedded in plain sight. All this
Yes.
knowledge, because they cannot. I mean, like I always allude to, there's a force trying to prevent all this knowledge from coming out. So they cannot just tell as it is. Then everyone breaks the game. So they pack it in architecture. They pack it in plain sight, so that those with the wisdom to see it can understand the code or how to break the code.
Yes, or rather, like for example, the pyramids that now so like for example, remember I think about a few episodes ago we were talking about how the pyramids existed. I mean, sorry, the underground structures in the pyramids. Only now in recent years, then it's
Right
open
place,
to the
right time,
public.
right?
Yeah, not just that, but is that did simulation theory decide that the world is ready to know this, and therefore this is why now it is discovered. Like I always believe that uh any information of that level, correct, if you are not ready, even if it's put in front of you, right, you will not be able to catch it, not be able to see it.
So they're too low level to go to that map, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's a fog of war there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, for exactly.
yeah.
And being hiding in plain sight, the access points for editing. One way that I think how there are set structures and there's a way to understand reality. And we're talking about sacred geometry. We talk of the circle of life, and the circle of life is actually a pattern that can be generated by cymatics, where you generate sound, put it over sand, put it over water, and it starts to replicate the circle, the seed of life or the circle of life pattern. And a lot of structures, they hold the phi, the golden ratio, the golden mean, and all these are like building blocks of the universe. For example, why is a soap bubble a soap bubble? Why is it round? It's because this shape is the most space saving, for example. And why is a honeycomb this hexagonal shape? Because it's one of the stronger structures. Why the triangle? These are like blueprints. But then beyond understanding the basic shape, if we could, and we have the technology to look at how sound appears on cymatics, right? But before then, where did they get this knowledge? I mean, this knowledge has been there, and I think in the entire Egypt, there was only one temple with the seed of life pattern, if I'm not mistaken. But still, it's also a symbol that appears in other temples elsewhere. I think we've probably seen that before. So there is this knowledge that is shared across time space.
Wow. Okay. Okay. The COVID-19 and the POV or 八字, you want to hear?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So 2020 is a metal red year. Which means according to this, is the theme is cold metal and deep water. Therefore, collapse will begin. All right, because raw, unrefined young metal has to do with energy or control, enforcement, and restrictions, while deep winter water has to do with darkness, isolation, and cold fear. This is why you can see things like mass lockdown, fear and isolation, and systems of control activated globally. So, in a sense, this was the beginning of the great pause as the metal cuts the water silently. Okay, so 2021, yin metal oxia. We talk about hardened metal and stubborn earth. So, this is where the great resistance will begin. Refined metal is a representative of medical tools, vaccines, needles, and precision, while earth and hidden water talks about muddy, slow, and heavy qi. So basically, resistance to change and bureaucratic tension and polarization. I think y'all, with all those words, y'all can roughly kind of gather what we're talking about here. So what we saw was mass vaccination programs, deep societal divide, earth suppressing flow, and censorship, authoritarianism, and supply chain freezes. The world stood still, but behind the surface, the pressure was building.
Okay, so now we know that's the past and how accurate it is. Are you able to then project to the future, 6 months ahead?
6 months ahead.
Yeah, let's on Strange World today. We're going to project the great Tanky Mary Mike is going to yeah, it's going to give us a 6 months projection. Hold on to your
Okay, I know I put that specifically Southeast Asia
yeah.
Then
Okay.
at least that we. Okay, so everyone, please take this with a pinch of salt. I cannot confirm that this AI that I'm using is very accurate.
No, but you just proved that it was accurate for the last 5 years.
But we must
Disclaimer,
always,
is it?
But disclaimer.
Oh.
Okay. So so some rules, right? Yes, this AI helped me win 40 doesn't mean that it is 100% accurate. There may be many things at place, like for example, me facing east to buy. However, it's just take this as this is the weather forecast.
This is where Mary Matt's going to tell you, I'm going to give you everything except, the direction. Now, if you donate $2 to our cause, if you are behind a paywall, we'll tell you the direction.
Okay, if you pay down to Eugene $2, then then you send me your birthday, your birthday, then I can tell you. The 3天 AI will come at 5 years. I know.
Okay, come 6 months. Come, give us a prediction.
It's okay. So it's a bit laggy, but I'll just go. Let me see.
Okay.
See lah. Yeah, I think it's laggy because I've been using it quite very heavily. Okay, so context global and Southeast Asia energy in 2025. Okay, for this year, it's about tenderwood, symbolizing new growth, hope, and activism. There's hot fire, which means fast change, power plays, and aggressive environments. So this year is wood born into fire, a time of bold intentions clashing with intense realities. So the meaning here would be growth comes but only through heat testing and friction. The world is shifting toward action, fire, confrontation, and rebirth. Okay, so forecast for April to September. Uh, for April to May, metal over earth. The themes would be power consolidation and underground finance shifts. Southeast Asia may see governmental or military announcements, behind the scene control moves, and focus on logistics, property, border enforcement. Hidden wealth is disturbed possible financial exposures. So the advice for the region would be to stabilize systems quietly and don't reveal all cards.
Okay.
Okay, then May to June is fire over fire. So over here there'll be overheating, pressure, and burnout, global weather extremes or regional energy-related tensions will increase, and then Southeast Asia will likely see uptick in protests, accidents, confrontations. There'll be more people quitting or changing direction fast, and possible cyber or info war tensions.
Whew.
Okay, anyone, if you are a Patsu practitioner, please contact Eugene and tell us we are just spitballing here, or
Actually, it
actually
could be
this is
quite interesting to
onto
have a
something.
八字 or feng shui master on as a guest on our show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I also want to verify all of this actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for June to July, there's water over fire, which is conflict and overreaction. Right? Water and fire they clash, so emotions will run high and mental health will spike globally. Southeast Asia may see increased flooding, fires, or sudden emotional events like celebrity scandals and political outbursts. Also, maybe June, July will be interesting on the news, right? Public sentiment will switch fast, and governments will struggle to contain public pressure.
Because that's where voting is coming in, is it? Election time
Is it election time?
this year.
Is wait June?
Yeah, June
When
election
is
time.
2025 election?
They see all the scandals will come out, all the power play.
November.
You know
November.
why? Because the
Right.
government has done their reading. They said,
Also,
June cannot do election, very bad time. Then they count. November is a better time. I tell you, these people, they know.
I think maybe lah.
Okay.
You can see. Yeah, so correct. Yeah, like Eugene say, these things can be navigated one. Okay, so July to August, there will be delays in bureaucracy and stagnation. Economy will feel sluggish. And South Asia may feel like it's waiting for something to happen.
Shit.
People will be emotional and feel trapped or deeply reflective.
Ah.
And there's a lot lah. There's
Okay.
a lot lah, all the way.
Well, let's
Okay.
wrap this up. Let's wrap today's topic up.
Okay, so coming back, right now. Okay, the next question that I have is that do you think our subconscious intuition, right, kind of like okay, we know all of these patterns and all these things, but what about our own selves within our brains, right? Things that we see, like for example, deja vu, divine inspiration, ancestral memory. Do you think those are the back doors to the program itself? Like, do you think, like, even with all this, okay, so like for example, remember I was talking about my experience, right? Correct. I did nothing. I did no ritual. I did not have any specific diagram or design on my living room, right? I just somehow managed to partially astral project in that period. Do you think that is kind of like our brains or our whatever it is within us having a backdoor to the original program?
I think so. I also like to believe that there are forces out there trying to contact us. So our conscious mind may not know, but our unconscious mind will know. And I kind of figured this out when I was meditating. Sometimes people say, people say, oh, they hear voices, they see things like, when I meditate, I don't get any of those very high def visuals. But after I come out, I just know things. Like it has already been planted in my head, and I knew it all along. It's just that now it comes to the foreground. So my explanation of that is a few ways. Like one, you can call it the back door. Like my subconscious went to the back door through the meditation, come back with that knowledge. Or it's just something that happens behind the scenes. Like we are now looking at this screen, but behind there's some processes that is running in the background, and then I receive that. So yeah, that's how I would describe it. I'll see it that way.
How I'll add on to that would be just now, Mike, you mentioned about ancestral memory, right? And I would say that our ancestors being, which I believe they were more in touch with themselves compared to nowadays where we have so much distractions. They will probably have glimpses of the source code, and then they probably develop ways, and that's how some of the rituals sort of start to percolate down to our level. And perhaps they have questions in their minds that are unresolved. By the time for them to leave, it's still the answers are not clear yet. Perhaps those questions are passed down to us for us to solve for the benefit of us and our future generations.
Is there any indication that even in modern day, where all these things are being practiced, that there is an advancement in the practices, or are we still at the level where we are still digging back what was discovered before? Because just like you said, that because we have a lot of distractions in today's world, right, that take us away from all this, and we are less in tune. Yeah, like Eugene, maybe you might know.
From the esoteric practice, there is definitely a progress in the traditions. What was practiced before, the root of it remains, and newer practitioners will add on certain stuff to make it more and more powerful with new knowledge, new technology, new awareness. The spells and the way it's done changes. The spell doesn't change. How it's applied change. That makes sense. If the yantra was passed down to me for 1,000 years, I'm still reciting the same mantra. But how I'm applying it now is matched with my newfound perspective or my modern mind of how I'm going to apply this mantra. What's missing in today's modern world is that people have forgotten all these various codes, all these various esoteric practices that came from thousands of years ago. It's almost like they tear the calendar 2025, we shouldn't believe in any of this anymore, and then they just ignore all that. But to answer your question, yes, even magic has a progression.
Yeah, because I'm asking this because it would seem like the source code is being deliberately overshadowed by today's technology.
I mean, that's why we see movies like American Gods, where the new gods of technology, want to remove people away from past beliefs so that they can now gather more followers. So money, sex, instant gratification are the new currency of the new world. So by removing people from their past belief, they can get new followers. So I think that's where we get this power struggle between the gods or the mindset shift.
Right. So it's like there is at the reason. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going to just throw this out into the deep ocean. Do you think that there might be an anti-entity that is preventing us from actually accessing this instead of just us humans being the ones stopping ourselves?
Humans stopping ourselves from what? Oh, as in
So,
we're preventing
like,
our
for
own
example,
growth.
So, like for example, we always talk about how the eye in the sky always don't want us to know this. They always want to hide this from us, right? But instead of it being the eye in the sky, which is all the all the tin forehead things, right? Do you think that it could be just a separate entity preventing us from coming back to where we came from?
No, okay. So this is something I can share quite personally. I feel it's not true. I feel that's not true. I feel Earth is a playing field, and are two forces at play, multiple forces at play, and I believe that we are placed here to learn and then to go back with that knowledge. There's also a force that doesn't want you to go back with that knowledge. There's two opposing factions. So again, Earth is that playing ground, that simulated field, multiple players, good versus evil, black versus white, and how we want to navigate that path. So all things being equal, we are born here. We have free will or what we want to decide to take on onto ourselves, but there are also external forces that is going to try to stop us from our path or further our agenda. So it really depends on 30% your past life memory, 30% this life environment, and 30% the people around you, your tribe. So if you fall into the wrong tribe and everyone's into the dark side, then you're probably going to not fulfill your destiny. Or perhaps you are, in the right tribe, but you this life you want to try something different. So there's so many different permutations, and that's why life is so amazing. Even though with the quotes around in the structure, in the architecture, giving you the 10-year series, everyone's still free to make up their own mind how they want to choose their way forward within this finite sandbox environment.
Oh, Dr. Yo, anything?
For me personally, I believe is that if there's any forces that are out to prevent our evolution, ascension, transcendence, it would be for reasons. For example, what's the benefit of them doing this, right? So, for example, if we talk about the powers that be, so to keep us being materialistic, continue to buy the things that to quote, to buy the things that we don't need to please people that we don't like, so that these cycles of wealth continue to perpetrate. But when it comes to entities, I don't know actually. What I'm the type where I'm a bit like Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. I have this very simplistic view that all people are good, all things are good, and to me, I know like entities have different levels, right? The higher vibration one, lower vibration one.
Yeah.
But I don't know, for myself, I don't quite subscribe to the idea of shaitan or Satan or anything that is out here to whisper bad things into your ear so that you commit the sin, so that you fall down and things like that. I personally, I don't subscribe to that. So to answer your question, I'm not sure. Perhaps Eugene is the better person to answer this, and he has, yeah.
Okay, I know. Of course, I think it's one of those questions where you will definitely be very interested to hear what the audience has to say, because there's no wrong. For me, it's kind of like just piecing things together, because we understand that in this world there is a specific code, and the specific code and the specific knowledge is hidden. We understand now that it's hidden because maybe we are not ready to know. Even if we knew, we wouldn't know what to do with it, or there are some things that are just more difficult to learn and understand, and sometimes even if we try, things happen, and that was where this was coming from, basically. So in a sense, one of the bigger questions that I would ask is that what we call as ancient wisdom, all these things that we know of, right, are they fragments of what you will call system level knowledge to operate this simulation that we live in right now? So that would be something, I would challenge the audience to look it up, ask questions, and to kind of like, if you have a take on it, just write down in the comments. Yes. Okay. So now that we understand, architecture behaving like data, right? And symbols that persist across thousands of years also behave like data. And AI is also using the same data, or rather, is AI using the same methods to assimilate data, correct? So here's one possibility that we may want to ask ourselves, which is, if let's say we are not just living in a simulation, correct? But we are living in a simulation whereby there are different mitigating factors that kind of gate us into understanding more about the world that we live in and even reality itself, correct? Do you think that there are certain things that we are just not meant to know?
Or maybe not meant to know yet. I think we're all meant to know it just in, in
Yeah,
the
like,
matter of time.
yeah, it was really heavily now. So the book getting very melancholic here.
Yeah.
But I would say to the audience that, if you have ever wondered that whether you are experiencing a simulation, coming onto this podcast is probably we are giving you the breadcrumbs for you to find the keys, right? This is where your journey begins. You start to explore, you start to think, you start to ponder. And we hope that, for those of you who are interested to break free from the chains of reality, this is one pathway.
All right, I think we have come to the natural end
Yeah.
of this particular episode. I've seen some of the notes that we have in the next. Some of the notes that we did not cover, which talks about the Hopi prophecy, the Anunnakis, and all that. I think that is a very good next episode to have, because personally I am big fan of the Anunnaki law.
If you were going to go into that, then you will have to stretch this into another 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this and we have blown your mind as well. Leave us a comment what you feel that whether you agree with us, you disagree with us. Again, none of us here profess to know everything. It's all about the discussion. You may have something entirely conflicting. In fact, when you put it out there, it makes us start to think in a entirely different projection. So that's going to be good for everybody in this discussion. So once again, thank you so much for spending your time with us on Strange World. My name is Eugene. That's Dr. Yong, and of course, AI Tanki, Mary Mike. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
What did you find? You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.